everybody. Welcome to our Mentor Me panel. Today we have with us Shreya, we have Ananya, we have Mithun. And Shreya, why don't you start?
And I'm an Emory class of 2022. And I got into Goisbeta in my sophomore year. So I applied early and I got in. You can't apply to the business school while you're applying as a freshman. So it's a separate process. And currently I'm studying marketing. I'm also thinking of doing a little bit of consulting. And with that, I'm doing a film and media management concentration.
Hey, my name is Mithun. I go to NYU. I graduated TISB in 2019 and I'm in the NYU class of 2023. So I'll be a sophomore next year. I'm currently studying finance and sustainable business at Stern.
So hi guys, my name is Ananya. I graduated in the same batch as Shreya, 2018. I got into Penn early decision and I actually got in for being a bio major. And then when I went to Penn, I actually, so Penn has these dual degrees, like it's like a big thing. I don't know if you've heard of them. And so I applied for a coordinated dual degree called the LSM program. I didn't get into that, but I got into the uncoordinated degree thing. So I was doing like a bio degree and a business degree. And then halfway through my sophomore year, I decided to just switch over to business. So I dropped bio. So I kind of have a background in like both sides. So you guys can ask me questions on any of that.
Okay, so for me, when I applied to Emory, I was looking at liberal arts as well because I was not sure whether I wanted to do business hardcore, which is one reason I chose Emory over the Marshall School of Business at USC. Once I got in, I was super interested in film and I was exploring that side of it, but then I wanted to make money, like off the bat, like that's a fact that I want to make money when I graduate out of college. So business does seem like a really safe option. And I'm not smart enough to do econ, so I just let that be. So yeah, and I was looking at film and how I could make how I could monetize on that, which is why I went into Goisbeta and now I'm doing a film and media management concentration because I think that's super interesting where I'm taking that passion and I'm taking that the monetary side of it and bringing them together. So for me, that's like a really interesting aspect of business, the film aspect of it, and how much actually goes into the distribution, the production, and just, there's a whole new side to film, not just the business side of it, but the commercial side of it, which I find really, really interesting. And I thought marketing would also play in really well into that, which is why I'm doing that as well.
I decided I want to do business, I think in like 11th grade. It was actually because of an internship I did at a wealth management firm in Bombay. So before that, I was really undecided on what I wanted to do. But then I think the internship like showed me that I liked finance, and I decided to apply to Stern after. So I'm studying finance and sustainable business because I think like social impact investing and sustainability is, I wouldn't say the hardest area, but it's the area that I'm most interested in right now. Because I think, recently like events, even like right now and even before, the events that show the most cracks in the economy and in the whole financial market are due to unsustainability. So I do think like, sustainability is the future. And also, I care about the environment and just in general about like social impact, the social impact side of finance. So that's the thing I'm most interested in right now.
So I initially, like I said, I got into into Penn for bio, and I never really wanted to do pre-med or go into research, which is kind of what most people do when they do a pure science. And I always wanted to kind of work within the healthcare industry as opposed to like doing the actual research stuff. And so when I was on campus, a lot of people, obviously like going to Penn, like the business school presence is really big. And so you can't really avoid it. And so that dialogue is always there. And so I kind of got introduced to, so in the process of applying for my dual degree, because I wanted to work in healthcare, so I thought, okay, adding business would be great. So I started taking a couple of classes at Wharton and I really liked it. And so then I kind of fully kind of gravitated towards that. And then I really liked finance just because I always loved math. And I think within business, finance is very quantitative and I really liked that. And in terms of what I want to be doing, so I'm recruiting for investment banking and that's what I want to do. But in terms of what I think is the hottest area, I think fintech is definitely something that people should be looking at if they're interested in that. I'm like not tech savvy at all. And so that's not where I'm headed. And also I think, like investment management and asset management, like working with stocks and stuff is also really interesting. That's also becoming more quant and like coding based. So if you're interested in that, that's also great. But yeah, I am on the like investment banking track. So if you guys have any questions about like future career paths, I can help you with that.
So I think for me, the biggest con that I've heard like everybody speak about when you go to B school is that when you're doing an MBA, it's sort of redundant because these are skills like if you just do an MBA straight up, do anything in college that you want to study and then do an MBA at school. And plus, like when you look at the acceptances of business school students into the most prestigious MBA programs, you see that it's mostly econ majors. It's mostly they're extracting more people from other sources now into these MBA programs, which is also really interesting to see. Even in terms of jobs, if you look at it now, companies like Google, Facebook, they still do recruit a lot of business school students, but they also look at a lot of other skills and they're moving more towards liberal arts, which is also very interesting. So, I mean, I don't really know if it's a con, but yeah, like there's a whole big area out there as well that people are exploring and companies are looking into. So just doing a business degree and assuming that these companies only look at you is sort of a wrong way into going into it, which is what I did initially, which was completely wrong. The pro I think in general is that, I mean, I was speaking to my academic advisor the other day, and she's like, "There's so much scope in business. Like, it's not just one area. Like, like when I say I'm doing marketing or consulting, I can't really say that because I can't take 4 classes and decide that I've like become an expert in this area or whatever. It's just having that knack for things, and I mean taking some classes to support that really." So yeah, there's a lot of scope when you're studying business, a lot of classes, interesting things that you can do, and a lot of things you can collaborate onto with that. So like you just don't have to do the film degree, you can do the film and business degree, or you can be super passionate about environment and sort of bring business into that, because I mean it's the core of everything at the end of the day. That's how every system's run. So I think that's the best part about doing something like business.
In under pros, I'd say just like doing business, regardless of whether you studied in college, is you're going to be doing it like in your private and your professional life, and like getting the head start and just knowing the like in things like personal finance and real estate, just knowing things through school, I think is really helpful. And obviously, most people now are doing like they do business obviously as the main degree, but they do special like they do some technological thing on the side, or they do like shares doing media on the side. So it's great in that way that you get the professional experience before going out into the work field. In terms of cons, I'd say now doing like the generic business concentrations, maybe like just accounting, just marketing, just management, it's getting a little oversaturated now, and it's a bit harder to break into it if you don't have like a technical background or like something else that you can bring on into the workplace.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think for me, the biggest, in terms of like, I'll start with the cons because I want to end on a good note. But if in terms of cons, I think business is something you can acquire, like business knowledge is something you can acquire at any point in your life. And so I think, a lot of people told me when I was deciding like whether I should transfer to Wharton and give up my bio degree, everyone was like, this is like when you give up science, it's usually like you're done there. Like not just science, but like anything that's not like anything, any subject, whatever you're interested in. I think business is something that you can pick up when you're actually like out there working. And I think that's probably the biggest con. And again, like going back to what Mithun said, like sometimes if within business you go into just a very, very general major within that, or if you don't really make use of going into the different niche areas, then I think you're closing yourself off, because then you're not really going into depth about anything. And right now, considering how competitive, whether you want to get into like grad school or if you want to get a job, considering how competitive it is, you need that edge in something more detailed. So I think it's very easy to get closed off. And in terms of pros, I think one thing I've noticed in myself is just as a byproduct of going to these classes and going to business school and the people you're surrounded with, my general knowledge has skyrocketed. Like I know so much more about what's going on in the world. I understand like the stock markets. I understand like current affairs, but like what's happening with economies worldwide. And I think that's such a useful skill to have, especially like, again, if you consider like grad school or if you consider getting a job, those are some key skills that I think are really useful. And when I was a bio major, I didn't know a lot, like, to be frank. And I think another big pro is that, like you said, like, what's the difference between doing a major versus going to a business school? I think if you're really interested in business, I think you should shoot for business schools, because just coming from me, like, I would have never taken an accounting class, but because I go to a school, it's compulsory. I've taken marketing classes, management classes, accounting classes. I've taken legal studies classes about business. I've taken, and all those things. And like, you get to, when you go to a business school, there are more niche topics to go into. So I'm like concentrating in finance, but I'm also doing business analytics, which is more of like a tech statistics side. And so I think those opportunities you get when you go to a business school. And so I think that's something you want to consider when you're deciding where you want to study.
Of course.
I think another thing that I think Mithun and Ananya will both agree to is that when you're in a business school of even a college like NYU and UPenn, you have this separate network that you can tap into of people, which is really exclusive to these business schools. And people actually like people like separate themselves like business school and like a college, because they know that that network is really intense. So yeah, you'll see people like wearing like full suits with portfolios and resumes on like a random Tuesday walking around campus, and you're like, where are they going? There are no career fairs. But that sort of like that drive is there in the business school, and that ambition to like just make it, which is very different from college, where like there are a lot of other things and a lot of other like priorities people have.
Just one last thing to go off of that. I think both of you will agree, when you go to college, I think the one word that's drilled into your head is network. You know, you don't hear that in school, but in college, that's all you hear, network. And I think the biggest reason, like, it's the same reason like why people get MBAs. You know, if you've done research about MBAs, people don't do MBAs to learn stuff. They do it for the network you get. And so similarly, that's, I think, the distinction between going to a business school and getting a liberal arts degree in business. So like, just for example, like I was speaking to someone that works at Bank of America, and he's being trained currently because he just got his full-time job as a banker. And he was like, straight up, like he was like, because I went to a business school, I'm finding the training easy. But he said like this liberal arts kid that went to Harvard got the same job, but during training he's struggling because you don't get as much exposure. So I think if you're genuinely passionate about business, then I would say focus on going somewhere where you can get into a business school.
I think one of the biggest things I realized at school is, other than maybe technical classes like quantitative finance, classes such as like marketing and management, they're not really like high on the list of my priorities. I feel even like the business school experience, they make it so that you learn more from your out of class experiences. Like you learn more from like through the clubs at the business schools and like speaking to the professors and stuff like that, as opposed to the things you learn in the class. Because those are things like, say if you do a medical degree, someone who's not doing the degree can't become a doctor just by reading the books, but you can become a pretty good financial advisor just by reading all the literature. So that's why I think business schools are more focused on the actual experiences you get just by being in the school as opposed to the classes.
Yeah, and not just that, like, I don't know if many people know this, but I recently found out that when you get into the business school, especially at Goisbeta, like your entire tuition goes towards the business school. So like for me, when I enter the business school, it's a completely different vibe. Like the resources I have, the way the professors conduct classes, it's a whole new level compared to the college classes that I take, because these professors in general are paid higher, and like you can just tell like they teach in a much different, more professional manner than colleges do. So that is as well as like a great opportunity.
And also like one thing I've noticed is like, this is similar to what Mithun said. Like I would have never taken a management class. I would have never taken a marketing class because it's not what I'm interested in. But I was forced to because it was a part of my core, like it was a part of my core requirements for the business degree. And what that did is it gives you perspective, like more than the skills. Like I don't think I'm ever going to be someone who's doing marketing, but because I took that class, like I understand how consumers think. I understand like it's the skills you get, and like the professors that teach you are people that have actually accomplished things, you know, like they're people that have research papers out there, people that have worked in big companies, like they have that actual experience, not just like reading off a book. And it's being able to tap into that resource that's, I think, really important. But again, not to like shit on schools that don't have separate business schools. I think there are pros and cons to each, but I just think it's something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. So I was like super into theater in high school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college, which is why I didn't want to commit to USC, because I was going into business school and I was not ready to do that yet. So I think definitely for people who don't know what they want to do, it's a great, liberal arts schools are a great place to start. Especially look at liberal arts schools that have great business schools, that have great like film schools that you could go to, like NYU, for example. Like it has Tisch and Stone, which are amazing. I mean, the transfer rates are really, really low, but they're still there. So look at those schools, because um, it allows you to sort of explore different areas, and it allows you to really figure yourself out. And hey, I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing in college. Trust me. Like I look at people around me, and they seem so sorted with recruiting. Ananya, for example, but I'm like so lost right now. Like I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay, because I mean, it takes time and it will take time. So even when you're in college and when you see these people around you, you'll feel like a little bit lost. But I guess you have to just trust yourself and like just put all you can in your academics and your networking and talking to people and like learning as much as you can, really. And I think everything else falls into place, really. And for people who are focusing on business specifically, I think of course there are great business schools already out there that you can apply to entrepreneurship. So that's like pretty easy. That's a path that's right there for you, and you don't really necessarily have to take business and IB to do business in
I
college,
don't
by
think
the
any
way.
of us took business
I
in
didn't
IB.
take
Sorry.
this.
I don't think any
Yeah,
of us took business in IB. Yeah.
I didn't take business in IB.
Business,
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to like. I've heard it's like pretty easy. So like it's not something you have to do. But I mean, sure you can do it. You don't get credit for it either. If you do business HR, my school doesn't offer any credit for doing business HR. Econ on the other hand, English on the other hand, these are things you can transfer onto college. But business, like my school doesn't give credit for it. So
I'm going to say and just jump in for a little bit of context here. All of these people are from US colleges. So this is a US perspective. And we have panels coming up on our social media, which have people from the UK colleges. So two different perspectives I think is important to keep in mind.
I think, especially in high school, and I did this too, was that we give too much importance on our career path to what subjects we're good at in school. And I don't think it's that important. I think what's more important is to like go out and try to do these things. So I always thought that I always had a big dilemma between doing bio or doing econ. So in 10th grade, in my summer, I did an internship at a hospital, and I hated it. It was gross. Like I could not stand being in a hospital. So I'm like, there's no way. And then in 11th grade, I did an internship at a wealth management company. I was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. So I think going out there and trying out what you think you like is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with Mithun there. Like, if any of, okay, you guys won't know me, but like, ask my friends, like in 12th grade, 11th grade, I used to roast people that were like doing business, like I thought that it was closing yourself off. And so I definitely agree that what you study doesn't matter. And if you don't know what you want to do, that's totally fine. Like, look, I didn't know, I thought I was like hardcore bio, and look at the 180 that I took, right? And I also think I completely agree with what Mithun says, that classes are not going to show you what you're going to enjoy doing in your life. I loved bio. I hated working in labs. I didn't have like a passion for eco, but when I worked at an energy advisory firm last summer, and I was like working on like different aspects of the business, like the management side of things. And it was great. And this summer I'm working at an investment management company, and I'm in love with it. You know what I mean? When I don't like, your classes don't necessarily mean you're going to enjoy working in that. And in terms of, if you are sure that you want to do business, I would still say don't close yourself off. I think a big part of like why I'm enjoying college so much is that I have my business classes, but I make sure that I'm also taking, like, I took an acting class. I make sure that I'm taking like a few math classes, because I think closing yourself off to just business is not the healthiest thing to do. I think it's good to have some variation around that. And so that would be my advice. And one thing is, if you do know that you want to do business, if you have an idea of what you want your career to be, I think one thing that I wish I was told in high school is that look at when you're picking your college, look at what tie-ups they have with what companies or grad schools. Like if there's a certain university that has a tie-up with a company you think you want to work at, like it makes a huge difference. Like I know that like look at like that, you know, like when I got into Wharton, I was like, okay, I'm benefiting from the fact that there's so many like really there's a lot of relationship with XYZ companies. And that is like a really valuable thing. And so I think that is something I wish I knew, because sometimes if you go to a university that, let's say, doesn't have a great conversion rate for, let's say, this grad school, then you're kind of stuck. Like in a similar way where it's like certain high schools get into certain colleges and they have that sort of preference, I think the same thing applies to universities.
Oh, another interesting fact just to throw in here with business schools. So I don't know about you guys, but I know each business school has a different resume format, and we're strictly told to follow those resume formats, because when these resumes go out to companies, they basically just lay it out on the table, right? So if you have an alum working in the company, they immediately see your resume and they know it's from their college. So they handpick that one out. So that's also a really cool fact about resumes. Does not mean if you're at Emory, you do a Harvard resume and you think you're going to fool anyone. But yeah. Okay, I can describe Ananya. Ananya is my friend and she's also of the business school. And I'm going to go for driven, resourceful. And I'm looking for the third word, but driven and resourceful for sure.
I'm also looking for the third word, but I think I would use competitive and ambitious.
They're competitive, third word. Thanks, Nitin.
Done. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would go with competitive as well. I think, yeah, definitely competitive. I think, yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, I'd say competitive and resourceful.
Yeah. Wharton is just competitive.
Personable. I think business schools make you really good, like social beings. It teaches you, like, okay, this is something I want to stress on heavily. Going to business school teaches you how to act and how to talk with people who are professionals and people who are like leaders in the industry. Like if you asked me in like my first year as a bio major to get on the phone with someone for work, like who was like a CEO of a company, I would make a fool of myself. But I think going to business school teaches you the language of business and teaches you how to be a professional, like teaches you how to be a professional. And I think being like personable and just a social person, which is why, you know, a lot of people say that like if you look at business schools compared to the other schools within a university, the like business school has a higher ratio of like outgoing social people. And so I think that's something that is really interesting as well.
I have another fun fact, and I don't know if anyone's liking my fun facts, but I'm still going to put them in. So one thing that I learned in business school, like it was in the first week, was that the thing that people love listening to the most is their own name. So when you're talking in a conversation, the first and foremost thing to stress on is their name. Like listen to their name, remember it, and make sure you bring it up later in conversation, because then they know that you've heard their name. Because I literally didn't know this, and I never used to focus on people's names when I used to say hi, hello to them. Never. Like I would never remember them. But that's like something I learned in business school, like in the first week. I think pretty well, because I have been trying to. I'm doing two really interesting classes coming semester, which is a film producing class and film in the business, which will give me more perspective into this entire question that you're asking, Julie. But to be very honest with you, as of now, whatever I've spoken to my professors about, how much I've explored, I think for me it worked out really well, because Emory offered this concentration, and the fact that I could sort of take that passion and monetize upon it and capitalize upon it and do both is really, really a blessing, because I am exploring the creative side of it as well. I am doing classes where I'm writing scripts, I'm making movies, but I'm also learning what the backbone of this entire industry is, which is money at the end of the day. Like nothing in this industry is running without cash flow. So that is super, super interesting to me, and I am really happy that I'm at Emory doing this, because not many colleges actually offer this specific concentration that sort of takes business and film together. It's called Film and Media Management, and it's a very specific program that you have to apply for even after you get into the business school. So it's super selective and it's super cool, and I'm really happy I'm doing it.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons Stern is so famous, because we have like crazy amounts of recruiting and just the proximity to Wall Street. I mean, it's like people say it every day, but it can't be overstressed how great as a resource that is to have, because you have people like the top people from every industry come, because we are also the best university in New York, the best business school in New York. Like, no offense, Columbia, but like you have the best people from Wall Street that want to come and have an impact on students, and the best place that they want to do that is at Stern, which is just like it's an amazing resource that we have from day one. So I think that's the biggest thing about being in New York City.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's anything particularly that no other school knows. I think it's something that like other schools would have, but like it depends on what like their strong suits are. So like something, for example, that I didn't know, but like once I'm in Wharton, I realized is similar to what Mithun said. Like the proximity of Wharton to New York and Wall Street is such a big factor, which you don't even consider when you're applying to schools. Like you need to understand that when you're recruiting for a job, like people who are working full time, like 16 hours a day, they don't have the time to fly to different places, but they'll go to like NYU and they'll go to Columbia because it's right there. And similarly, like Philly is like an hour right away. And so they'll come to Penn. And so I think location is something that makes a big difference. And I cannot, like alumni network is such a big factor. Like one thing I've learned, and like this is whatever industry you want to get into, whether that's tech, whether that's finance, whether that's consulting, whether that's like the arts and stuff, like whatever you want to get into in the real world, it's all about having a network. Because if you just drop your resume on whatever job you want, you're not going to get it. You have to have people vouching for you, and the way you get that is through your alumni network. And I think that is the biggest asset that people at Wharton have, is their alumni network. Because I know that if I look at my, like, I'm not saying this is only to Wharton, I think like any top business school would have this. It's just the fact that like if I want to like work at a company, I can just go on my alumni portal, search for someone and email them, and they'll reply to me because I went to Penn, because I went to Wharton. And I think that is just something that you want to consider. That like I think one of the like liberal arts schools are amazing. Like I'm talking about like liberal arts schools that are small, that have like 300-400 people. They're amazing because I would say that like the quality of education there is probably better because you're getting so much individualized attention. But the drawback there is that you won't have as extensive as an alumni network. And that's really important when you want to move further in your career. And so I think that is the biggest resource.
Awesome. And I'm going to kind of tie that back in with you guys who are listening to the call and who are listening to this recording. You are in high school. If you don't know what you're doing in college, like if you don't know where you want to go in college, what you want to do, which major you want to like study, like reach out to your alumni, reach out to your TISP alumni. If you like, even if it's by mail, like they're going to see tisp.ac.in and then it's going to be an instant recognition for them, right? And similarly, you can reach out to them on social media. They're going to see on your bio, oh, she's what TISP, of course I'm going to text you back. Like it's, a community is like a community like that is really beneficial, especially when it comes to like networking. And I can't stress on that enough.